So I created, as I thought about this, it's great that you put an objective out there because I gave this a lot of thought, and I came up with general comments and specific comments. So I'm going to give you the specific ones. I'm going to read them and go over them. We can talk about them later. But here are the specific comments. First of all, just recognize that this is a slowdown. We've been through slowdowns before. It's part of the game. So we've been through slowdowns. I look at this as focus on the positive. This is part of the fun of being in the real estate business. You have an opportunity to reinvent yourself every 5 years or so.
These are real buyers that will show up. We write letters for those. We're very specific in the letters that we write. So let's say it's Nick Baldwin. I'm going to write up the letter and it's going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, I've got a husband and a wife, Nick and Ann, and they're looking for this single family residence. It's in your neighborhood. Here we go. We've got Mike, Keri, Saul, and Tristan. Let's get going, guys. Mike, we're going to go to you first. We're going to be talking about the market shifting, what agents should be doing now. What do you have for us?
You know, the last couple of webinars we did, we talked about the market shift. We talked a lot about what was, going on in the market, a lot of stats about the market, misinformation, all kinds of really good stuff. But I wanted to really touch today on what simple things can we do as agents with the market shifts right now that's going to help put more business and more money into our pockets. And I know I was guilty about this the last time the market shifted. I went through the terrible crash of 2008. Actually, I think it started crashing long before 8. I mean, I remember 6 and 7 were pretty rough, and then 8 was ridiculous. 9 was ridiculous. But one of the mistakes I made is I didn't really shift with it. I just kept trying to do the same thing I was used to doing, and it didn't work well. Like I was down to a quarter of the income that I used to be at because I was crushing it before the crash. So what I want to talk about is sort of our reaction to these shifts. And generally, we got 3, sort of like the old adage: either fight, flight, or freeze. Right? If we're going to do one of those things, we can fight the market. And I tried that. I just kept trying to work harder, and nothing seemed to work. We can flight, just give up and bury our head in the sand and run away. I've seen a lot of agents do that. Or we freeze and don't know what to do. So what I want to talk about today is some very simple things that I prepared, that agents can do. And when I say simple, I'm not talking about shiny objects and sexy things that we talk about in real estate, like, oh, look at this shiny object that we got to go chase. I'm talking about simple foundational things that make agents successful. So one of the things, the first thing I want to talk about is lead sources. Everybody right now, you really should take an audit, like a diagnostic of yourself, to think, where am I actually getting my business from? Where's it been coming from? Right? So sometimes we don't even really think about that. We don't track it. We just are busy, reactive. Business comes to us. We closed 15, 20, 30, 40 deals. Teams, of course, do a lot more than that. But, ultimately, where's the leads coming from and how many sources do you have? I'm going to tell you right now, you probably want to have at least, probably no more, no less than 3 lead sources. And I want to talk about why no more, no less. The reason why is because I see a lot of people try to go wide before they go deep. And what I mean by that, they're trying everything and they're doing it at like 20%, efficiency or effectiveness. So instead of going wide, grab 3 sources, sort of the rule of 3 of what we can concentrate on as people, and go deep, build systems around those sources, deeper and deeper and deeper, and don't abandon them. And with the market shifts, one of the things people think about is cost. All of a sudden you start realizing, oh my God, I'm paying my broker how much money again? I'm paying my lead, how much my Zillow spend again? Things.
What's my split?
Yeah, what's my split again? Like all these things you start thinking about that you weren't thinking about before because you were making a lot of money. So you may want to think about your lead sources and price consciousness. So when you're looking at price consciousness, what are some of the cheaper sources? Nearly 60% of every single transaction that happens in the country right now happens because of a relationship. Past client, SOI, referral. It's a lot of relationship sales, and a lot of that can be very inexpensive to run. Before we even get into that, I want to talk about personality-based lead sources. For me, if you told me to go knock on doors, cold call, go after fizzles and expireds, I'm out of business in 6 months. It's not my skill set. It's not what I enjoy doing. I would do it all day long and not be successful. Right. So I wanted to figure out what's going to be successful for me. I'm a relational person. I do well with relationships. A lot of agents do. I think that's why 60% or so of all transactions come from relationships. But beyond that, beyond your SOI, your sphere of influence, beyond the people that you have some sort of influence with, that know that you're in real estate and know who you are. Let's think of some other sources, cheap sources. Open houses, for example. I don't know one agent that literally does an open house every single week that doesn't do business.
I 100% agree. Yes.
It's impossible to not do business if you're there consistently. And that's the word I want you guys to understand is consistency. Consistency over talent. You don't always have to have the perfect thing to say. You don't always have to show up perfectly and do all the right things. You just have to keep showing up. And eventually you're going to start doing more business than you are today. And when you think of those three sources, it might be like, well, maybe I like doing online lead generation or something of that nature. Maybe I'm already doing that and I can just ramp that up, and that's great. But I also want you to think about your sources in terms of ROI, your return on investment, and how fast it comes back to you. If you're going to start thinking about adding sources like geofarming, that might take a while before that really hits in. And you might need some immediate business right now. So, again, going deep on your SOI, and I'm going to talk about the next thing. Those are the three sources. The next thing, that's advice number one, three sources. Advice number two, pay attention to key performance indicators, KPIs. This is the boring stuff, the super boring stuff. So in your lead sources, if you were to do something like to have 5 phone calls a day that you actually talk to somebody in your SOI or that knew you about real estate, even not just about real estate, just a great quality conversation, half the time real estate's going to come up. If I called Tristan and did my favorite shame on me call, Tristan, it's been 8 months since I've called you. I don't even know what's going on in your life. My work's been busy. I'm crazy. How are you? Shame on me. I dropped the ball. That one call 5 times a day, and you did that 5 times a day, every working day of the year, which would be over 200 working days of the year, over 1,300 conversations per year. Are you going to sell more or less houses? It's literally impossible to sell less. So we get hung up on what to do or what to say, what to say rather than what to do. What to do is make the calls. What to say, keep ironing it out, keep working. It doesn't matter if you get every single person to want to work with you. What matters is consistently, you're going to keep doing the action, and actions will lead to transactions. So pay attention to KPIs, number of calls. Again, open houses, consistency. If that's going to be your lead source, commit to doing 26 a year. Commit to doing 30, 52. Do one every single week. I challenge anybody that's on this, listening to this right now, to do 52 open houses that won't do more business, right? So when you're looking at those, how about another KPI? How many events are you hosting per year? Are you taking your database, your SOI or whatever sources you're working with, and hosting client events? If you're to do 4 of those a year, 1 a quarter, and you were in front of your people, once a quarter, are you going to do more or less business? What I'm suggesting to you is boring. And it takes a certain level of habit and ritual formation in order to pull it off. You're going to get up in the morning and figure out, well, if I call people before 10 o'clock in the morning, most people answer their phone, or whatever time in your market that really works. But that means you got to get yourself in the habit and the rituals to actually do the work. So those KPIs are super important. Understand what you do, the actions you do that leads to transactions. And if you need 5 phone calls a day and it makes you 200 grand a year, great. But what if you want 400 grand a year? Maybe you need to make 10 phone calls a day. What if you want 600 grand a year? Maybe it's 50 phone calls a day. Whatever that number is and how it breaks down, understand the numbers. That's what we're talking about with KPIs. And the last thing I want to talk about is how you need to set yourself up with a schedule and a task management system to actually accomplish what we're talking about. Because if you leave it reactively when you feel like doing it, you're going to be multitasking with 20 different things. You're never going to actually sit down and focus and get it done. You have to actually block your time off in your schedule. When I say block, I mean all notifications off, all distractions away, nobody in your space, and you are 100% focused at that time doing only that task. And some people like me that have short attention spans, I can only do that for maybe 45 minutes at a time. Then I need to take a break and come back and do something else, right? Understand the way you have to build your schedule, build your focus time. Come ready for the work. Have the people you're going to call in front of you. Know what you're going to say and do. Come ready. So if you're going to actually try to ramp your business up in a down market, it isn't about saying the perfect thing. It's about being in front of people, because they're going to ask you questions and they're going to want to talk about the market, but they're not going to do it if you're not in front of it. Staying in front of them. That's what the 3 lead sources, the KPIs, and the scheduling and task management is all about.
I love that. I took some notes on that one.
Awesome.
I love it. All right. So who wants to go next? Keri, Saul?
I'm not going to talk. I mean, that was.
Yeah, I'll jump. I'm in total agreement with everything that Mike talks about here. So I created, as I thought about this, it's great that you put an objective out there because I gave this a lot of thought and I came up with general comments and specific comments. So I'm going to give you the specific ones. I'm going to read them and go over them. We can talk about them later. But here are the specific comments. First of all, just recognize that this is a slowdown. We've been through slowdowns before. It's part of the game. So we've been through slowdowns. I look at this as focus on the positive. This is part of the fun of being in the real estate business. You have an opportunity to reinvent yourself every 5 years or so. And so look at this positive aspect of being in business. Now recognize there's going to be probably a downturn for a lot of people. So review your budget. Cut wisely where possible. Lock down your cash flow. How will you finance your business during the lean time? Typically, how do people finance businesses? They finance out of revenues, they finance out of savings, or they finance out of credit. So figure this out. How are you going to finance your business based on what you project? As Mike said, how you can project how many closings you're going to have, how much money you're going to be making, how it's going to affect your business. How are you going to finance your business? Double your prospecting efforts. Look for new clients in more places. Exactly what Mike said. I say brokerage firms, past clients. So if you work at a brokerage firm and they got past clients and the agents are gone, those are orphans. So go back and look for the orphans in the database of your broker. Also your own database. Look at different ways that you can slice and dice and send more personal, relevant messages to different people in your existing database. Go out and leverage yourself, prospect, talk to people like tax preparers. Talk to people who have the trust of people you want to do business with. Talk to tax preparers, talk to casualty insurance agents or life insurance agents, talk to financial planners, estate planning attorneys, and probate and divorce attorneys. Now, I say this out of experience. I went from a real estate business and turned it into, I'm a certified financial planner. I turned it into a financial planning business. I did it in the recession in the 1980s when I had to do something and went out and prospected and became those things myself. So those are people, look for people that have contact with people and have trust of people and work into those spheres of influence. Look for alternative sources of income. And this is key. You want to make money right now? You got to find some alternative sources of income. And here's some ideas. One of them that I love is syndication, is putting together investment groups. Don't give me all the reasons you can't. Start to look at it, because you can look to add new products. Look at investment groups. We used to call it real estate syndication. Why does that make sense? Because you put together a group of people, each one's got a certain amount of money. You go out and buy a property, you earn commission on putting on the deal. We used to charge a syndication fee for assembling the whole deal. We earn property management fees when we manage the property. And every time we put a syndication partnership together, what we were doing was creating a future listing. And that future listing was eligible either for a liquidation at some point in the future or 1031 tax deferred exchanges. So we were building a database. So look for new sources of income, create new clients for yourself. There are still people who want to buy real estate and want to buy pieces of real estate. And yeah, you got to jump through some hoops, but it can start to generate money right away if you can start doing it. Work as hard as you can. I think we talked about this before. Work as hard as you can and don't be distracted by those who tell you that you're working too hard. Right? You work as hard as you want to work. This is a tough business. It's not about making all your clients fit your schedule. And no, you work to satisfy your customer base and within bounds. And only if your spouse tells you you need more balance, or your significant other tells you you need more balance, then you need more balance. But don't let other people tell you that you shouldn't work 7 days a week, or you decide that. That's why you're in the real estate business. This is your business. You're an entrepreneur. And begin to think about what the economy will look like after the recession. Those are the kind of my specifics. I have generals, and you touched on them, is you need to conduct a SWOT analysis. You need to look at your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities and threats. Turn the weaknesses into strengths and turn the threats into opportunities. So all companies big companies do a SWOT analysis every year. So do that for yourself. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Make sure you're doing what the consumer wants. And we've talked about this: speed, convenience, choice, value added, quality service. They want discounts. You don't have to give them that if you give them the other things, but people are using discounts and they want information. And reformulate your value proposition. Why would you hire you to sell your real estate? And I say, well, if I had real estate to sell in San Diego, I'd probably hire Maxine Gellens, because she's really great. Well, I'm never going to get any listings if I believe that, right? And she is a great real estate agent in La Jolla and in San Diego. But you have to why would somebody hire you? What are all those reasons? And then communicate that to people and build a menu of services and be prepared. the real estate industry is going to change beyond most people's wildest dreams in the next 3 years. The mortgage business is going to change beyond people's wildest expectations in the next 3 years. The cell phone's only been, or the smartphone's only been around since 2008. So we know things can come and make dramatic changes to our lives. And there's some things headed our way, but that's why you're in real estate. I think part of it anyway, is to have the freedom to plan your future and to be rewarded for the efforts that you give. And it's a great business to be in. And it's not always the same, but you got to be consistent, Mike. And I know Tristan's consistent. I see him everywhere, every day, rain or shine, doesn't matter where I am. I know what he's doing. He's building a file. He's doing right. And that's it. It's consistency.
No, and so I want to, there's one thing you touched on that I think is so important, and before, you know, we move on to Keri, but you talked about basically what I call referral capital. And you're talking about kind of top grading your database. You know, you've got people in there that they just don't know the people. It's like, I've got a database of 100 people, I get no referrals, but it's because the people in your database have no referral capital. You know, and I'll tell a story. You know, there's people I know like on a construction, they go to work every day, they work with the same 5 people, they come home, they're raising 2 kids. Unless they're going to the work or grocery store, they're never even talking to anybody else. It's not that they won't dig a referral up from somewhere once in a while, but that CPA you talked about that has a database themselves of 700 people, that's a whole different level player. You know, so we have to kind of top grade our relationships and take an audit and say, my database is crap. I've got to improve this. I have to meet some people that actually have referral capital, because that's the business we're in here.
Incorporate this into everything you do. Have I done everything I can to earn your referral business?
Mm-hmm.
Have I done everything? People don't ask, right? You got to ask for the order. Have I done everything I can to earn your referral business?
And I think too, they also don't ask, but they also don't instruct how to. I can't tell you how many people say, here's my agent's business card, give them a call. No, right. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna teach you how to give me a referral. Put me on the same text thread as this person, do the introduction. I don't need a referral, I just need an introduction. Then I'll take it from there. I don't even want you to work harder than that. Yep. I literally give them permission to not work hard. Just connect me there. I'll take it from there. Whole different deal.
Perfect. Yep.
I like the instruction, Mike, that you said, I tell them to connect me.
Mm-hmm.
I teach my agents to say, send a joint text, because things get lost in email. So the more specific you can be. I'm going to comment on a couple things that all of you said, because they're amazing. I love, Mike, I think often people want to communicate to agents what they want to hear. So I see real estate coaches always like, don't waste your time doing open houses. Like it floors me. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? If somebody is going to go leave their house on a Sunday and go look at real estate, they're further along in the pipeline. So for the agents out there that want cash instantly, that are like, hey, I need some now business, not some geofencing business. I think open houses are brilliant. And I think that there's a very specific way to approach open houses. So my advice, if you're somebody who is in a market and there's new construction agents that are specializing in new construction, go ask them for some training on how to do opens. Everybody that I've ever hired from the new construction world, and I'm from the new construction world, I can sell the crap out of open houses, and I sell the house I'm in a lot. So I can just get the deal done in that day because I'm not afraid to close. So that brings up another point. We all need to raise our skill. For the last few years, we've been able to be successful if we were able to coach the buyer to write a winning offer, right? If we were able to go into the listing presentation and get the listing. I believe the skills that we need to work on right now to be successful are different skills. So the art of negotiation, buyers are scared. They're pushing back. They're like, I was talking to Ruth, who's in San Francisco, and she said one of her clients on a $5.6 million house offered for 1. Like, and the counter was reasonable. They're probably going to put the deal together, right?
Did they argue over the refrigerator is what I want to know.
I mean, so I guess where I sit in all of this is, how do you craft emails that are more persuasive? How do you become better in the moment when someone's pushing back, at meeting them where they are and pivoting the conversation to get them confident? And how do you use statistics to help you win whichever side you're on? Because statistics are powerful, right? So I've been training my agents, hey, If you're making an offer, sellers are not programmed to think about an offer. They've been watching their friends and family and colleagues sell for years and get multiple offers and get high bids. So if you're going to present an offer, be really aware of how you're presenting it. And that listing agent may not have the strategy to get their client to understand what's happening in the market. It is your job to present all of those facts. So I did an exercise with my team. We took a listing where someone wanted to make an offer. We looked at a half-mile radius in 180 days, and we studied withdrawals, canceled, expireds, and we calculated the absorption rate. I said, use these facts to position your offer as valuable and as safe and security to the seller. So I think the more we go deep into how we present, how we do what we do, think about it this way. You go out, you show houses. You write a contract up with a buyer and the buyer walks away because they get cold feet or the seller says no. You've just wasted a ton of time and you've put no money in your pocket, and you won't have future referrals from someone you attempted to sell a home. People will give you referrals if you help them feel confident and secure. And the way you do that when they're in the biggest state of fear is proof sources. That's statistics. It's not hard to find them, but you have to be intentional about it. So that's the first thing I would say.
But I think, Keri, too, what you just said was, when I was mentioning, go deep, not wide in all your lead sources and how your activity in real estate, when you're talking about open house agents, I want to touch on this because I think it's super important. You're like, people that do new construction don't always start out good at selling open houses. They become good. You know why? Because their butts are parked in those chairs for 6 hours at a time during Parade of Homes or, other weekends, or they're constantly in front of buyers. They developed a skill. And the other thing you're talking about, of how you can almost need to assume the listing agent on the other side of a transaction doesn't know how to present your offer to the seller. They don't know what to say or do. They've already set a bad expectation. Well, we almost have to make that assumption. But what you're talking about is going back to skill set and confidence. So skill set, like an open house, is like I can sell houses, the house I'm in at an open house. Not everybody can. That's skill, right? But it's also confidence. A lot of what agents are lacking right now, and I think it's because of the market, is confidence. They're unsure what's going to happen. They don't want to lead people in a bad direction. They don't want to give bad advice. So what they do is they freeze. What we're saying to everybody is, no, get out there, throw yourself out there, build confidence, be consistent, sit your butt in the chair for, all those hours in the open houses and get on the phone with all your referral sources and actually do the activity and know what's going to happen. You're going to get better and better and better. And you know what? If it doesn't work the first 3-4 times, who cares? It's you just keep moving forward. I always like to say you got to build the plane as you're flying it. You don't have to have all the answers. You just got to keep moving forward and getting better. And you don't get better by sitting back.
I think there's so much focus on mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Now I love mindset. Like, you guys know me pretty well. Saul, you not yet, but hopefully we'll get to know each other more. But Tristan and Mike, we've known each other for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. I always want to learn. I'm obsessed with mindset. Right now, I think you really need to be focused on both, though. The tactical, like, I love the idea of throwing yourself in there, but I also think if you've decided, hey, I'm going to make open houses a pillar, you need to go talk to agents around the country that are doing a lot of business with open houses. I have an entire course just on how to convert it opens. And the reason I've done it from a completely, here's what you say when someone walks in the door. Timing and motivation. Here's why most agents fail to get timing and motivation. Here's how you demonstrate the house and sell it when you're walking through. Here's how you close. Here's the actual, I call it the closing pyramid. Here's the actual strategy for closing in the moment right then, right? And so with agents that are winging it, the problem is they learn, but they fail a whole bunch of times. My advice, I'm not saying you need to do my course. Go find somebody who's doing it really well, preferably in another market. So you're not dealing with somebody who has scarcity around training you what they're doing, right? And go deep in that pillar. Don't be afraid to copy what is working for others and ask a lot of questions about what's working. I think it's huge.
And I think, that's real estate as a whole. We call it R&D, Rebuff and Deploy. That's exactly what we do in real estate. I mean, we don't have to innovate really anything. It's already been done. And I probably should have clarified what I'm saying about showing up over and over again. Just get yourself out there. And of course, when I say go deep, build systems around it, get education around it, trial and error, try something on, and maybe something that you hear from one person that's crushing it doesn't work for you, but you can take a piece of it. It's
Yeah.
always about just keep on tweaking it to make it yours. But yes, I should have articulated better. You know, you need education around everything you're building inside those pillars. If you have 3 lead sources that you're going deep on, and you're going to go, look, I'm showing up and I'm getting a conversion rate of X, but I really want Y. I need to get to Y, and I need to learn how to do this better. And you're going to go back and you're going to do some research and education, and again, R&D, Rebuff and Deploy. I'm going to do what Tristan's doing. It works really well for Tristan. Well, it doesn't work as well for me, but 10% of what I learned from Tristan works really well for me. Now I got to learn from somebody else too. Like, you're going to constantly be learning from others.
Absolutely. I have a couple other things here that I'll say quickly because I can get really excited and long-winded. And Tristan, I want everyone to hear from you too.
No, this is all about you guys. So keep going.
Thank you. But I want to hear from you as well. So my next one is corporate accounts. And it goes along the lines of what Saul said about divorce attorneys, and start thinking how, instead of going after a person, how can I go after an account? How can I get 10 deals done from this relationship instead of 1? And so something I did, and this is very specific, I joined Vistage. Okay. Vistage is a group that is C-level executives, and you're not allowed to get referrals from the group. Okay. I joined that group because I knew if I met 14 to 20 CEOs, all of them would become corporate accounts, whether I worked with them or not. And in the long run, I did work with them. I sold their multi-million-dollar homes as well. And I got a lot out of it, and I learned. So yes, I had to pay for it. Was it worth it? Oh yeah, absolutely. So it depends on how you're looking at what you want to accomplish. If you go there and you're only going there to get referrals, it'll never work. You have to go there to contribute to those C-level executives and help raise their, whatever you can contribute, whatever is your special gift. And I think this is true for creating more goodwill with your clients as well. I didn't only talk to my clients about real estate, just like I didn't talk to the CEOs about real estate. For the beginning, I was wanting to know them and what was important to them and what motivated them and what drove them and what actual challenges there were. And then my role was to help solve that. And that's why they trusted me with their staff. That's why they trusted me with their brother and their friend. And all of those people were high net worth. So with the corporate side of things, that's one approach to getting corporate. Another, which we did that was really fun. I don't know if you guys remember this, back in the day, we had really tiny children's Range Rovers, and we wrapped them. And so people were driving around, their kids were driving around in the neighborhood, and it had our guaranteed sale program on these little Range Rovers, right? So we kept one of the Range Rovers, and we have a very small girl on our team, and she would drive it, and we would go off elevators into corporations with pizza, and we called it a corporate Blitz. We'd literally go in and be like, what's up? We wanted to bring you guys pizza today. We'd love to come back and do a buyer seminar for your staff. And people were like, oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. This is so cool, right? So we would hand out business cards. They'd end up coming in the room and having pizza. We'd end up getting deals done just from that. And then we'd come back and do buyer seminars. It's funny, it was working really well. And guess what happened over the last 2 years? We stopped doing it.
Yeah,
like,
you did.
Why would we stop doing it? It was awesome, right? So we're bringing it back. So also go back. What was working for you before that you're not doing now? And how do you execute?
I think you just proved exactly.
Yeah, I gotta go, guys. I'm gonna put my notes up on the side. I gotta go. I got somebody else waiting, another call. But it's great seeing you guys again. I hope we get to talk again soon.
Next week, buddy.
I'll
See
be
you,
there.
Saul.
Take care,
Bye,
people.
Saul.
Good to see you.
You know, I love what you just said though, Keri, when you're like, yeah, what we were doing is working. We got off of it. We got off of it because business got so easy and reactive and was just coming to everybody. And it's like, now that that's going away and people are freezing, no, don't freeze, get active. It's the activity, like you're just talking about, when you do those things. I firmly believe you can do more business in this market today than what we could have done a year ago in the way we were doing business a year ago, as long as we're proactive, consistent, and continuously upping our game and getting better at what we do.
Totally.
That's true.
One other quick thought, and I know we're out of time. Reviews. When people are nervous, they will research you. So use the opportunity to get really good reviews. And I learned this from Ruth. I'm not going to take credit for this idea. She, instead of asking her clients to write a review, she would say, hey, I have a client that I'm going to be interviewing with that's very similar to you. Would you mind writing me a letter of recommendation that I can share with them? So her reviews are like this online, because first it was a letter of recommendation, and then she asks if they would mind also posting it online. So it's like somebody says, Tristan was great. That's very different than someone saying, when we met Tristan, this is where we were in our lives, and and that's what they do in a letter of recommendation. So go deep on those reviews, so when people research you, they feel confident.
I love that. And, I'll tell you, on reviews, before the internet was a big thing, I would go into a listing appointment and somebody would ask me, well, why should I work with you? I didn't even have an actual printout of all the marketing stuff, like an actual CMA and printout. What I did is I had 106 handwritten testimonials at the time. And I slapped that down on the table. I said, this is why you should work with me. Don't listen to me. Listen to 106 other people that wrote me a review. And they're like, where do I sign? They never even read.
That's amazing.
But it was a proof of concept that they're like, oh, all these other people like you. And I think we can do that online. I mean, there's so many great aggregated reviews places. I mean, you can do, Facebook, Google, Zillow. I mean, if you got to push the reviews, because you're right, people research it. And even if they don't, you can include that and be like, here's what other people said about working with me. People forget to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Guys, I took a whole bunch of notes. And you gave me some ideas on some live videos I can do too. So. Oh,
nice. Always happy to help out. Keri, great seeing you. Tristan, great seeing you. We'll catch you on the next one.
Great job.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.